Welcome to Bloodbath and Beyond. Today I'll be reviewing The Cleaning Lady. I Look Like You. Directed by Jon Knautz, starring Alexis Kendra, Stelio Savante, Rachel Alig, and Elizabeth Sandy. Based on the short of the same name, this movie's about Alice, a seemingly well-off, beautiful woman who's in a relationship with a married man. As she struggles to break herself away from the affair, she befriends her new cleaning lady, who's very strange and badly scarred. She soon learns these scars run much deeper than the surface. That line was quoted from IMDb. That really nailed it though. Before we get into things, this is a recommendation from our top donator over on Patreon, Deke. This is a movie where I've only seen the poster, and it did seem intriguing, but I didn't really have much interest in it, to be honest. But thanks to the recommendation, I'm glad I watched it, and I would recommend that you watch it before we even get into the rest of this. There will be some spoilers, but they're going to be very, very minor because they are in relation to some of the major plot points. Firstly, I really enjoyed the acting and the characters, mainly from our main two leads, Alexis Kendra and Rachel Alig, who play Alice and Shelley respectively. Like I mentioned, Alice is fairly well off, she seems successful, but she's also the other woman in an affair, which is obviously problematic. She doesn't know how to fix this with herself, and she thinks that maybe confiding in this new cleaning lady could help her out. Where Shelley has a very, very dark past, which is explored and shown through flashbacks, and it goes on to explain the scars on her face. What I liked about the acting, well, Alice was a pretty familiar character that we might see in other things. Shelley is definitely not. She's much more reserved, she's timid, she's shy, and I think the acting from Rachel Alig was just incredible. Just from the way that she hesitates to talk because she's almost intimidated by Alice, as well as her mannerisms throughout the movie. With everything that she kind of does, she feels off. She feels like she's had some trauma in her life, and it worked. However, the moment that I first saw her, I'm like, okay, the makeup kind of looks kind of shady. I don't know how this is gonna really play out, but it actually does work. Like after the first couple of minutes, you're gonna be totally invested. Well, it's not that original of an arc. The fact that Shelley does have the scars and she's the cleaning lady of this beautiful woman, she aspires to be her. She wants to have that same beauty. And without getting too much into the backstory, the way that it's built up, she sees her basically as a Barbie doll. And it comes full circle right up to the last shot as far as her entire outlook and motivations. So I really did like the ending. I'm not gonna give it away, but it did make a lot of sense, and I definitely slow clapped right at the end. The production value of this movie is extremely high for an indie film, and the shot types are fantastic. There's lots of tracking shots, there's lots of rack focusing, especially when you have Shelley in the background and we're with Alice in the foreground, and it like cuts between the two. Or a great example of a tracking shot, Alice is on the phone and she's walking back and forth in her room and goes to the hallway, then back and back to the hallway, where you can kind of keep a tab on Shelley, both as an audience member and as Alice, somebody of wealth that might be trying to keep an eye on her cleaning lady if she doesn't completely trust her. And it also helps build up the tension because you're like, is Shelley gonna, be there the next time when we track over? It was just extremely well done. And all of the shot types throughout the movie were really great. I was super impressed with the production value. Along with that, I really enjoyed the music. You've got kind of like this piano playing through many scenes, and it really helps to drive up the tension. Like I said, I don't want to give too much away, but the way that Shelley's character kind of grows over time and maybe gets a little bit more invested in this new friendship she has is really interesting to watch play out. And you can somewhat relate, even though you might not personally relate to her stories, you can kind of see where somebody in the same situation could think this way to an extent. I genuinely don't have a lot of dislikes for this movie. There's not one thing that I can accurately pinpoint and say, I didn't like this. Potentially I didn't like Shelley's mom or some of the flashback scenes, and not because of the content, but they just seemed a little bit too far removed for a somewhat believable story, I guess. As I'm saying that, it sounds really far-fetched, but most of the situation you can kind of understand. And I hope that doesn't make me sound like a serial killer or anything. They may have spent too much time on the affair angle. Well, I thought Michael did a fine enough job. I don't think they needed him in the movie quite as much to get the point across, because he's basically there to be the guy that Alice is trying to get away from. And so he's determined to consistently talk to her and be involved with her, even though he has a wife. And he didn't really add too much. Sure, it helped a little bit with Alice's character as she needed to try and find a way to stop him from consistently getting to her, but there are too many instances of it. While I personally enjoyed the pacing, I do think that it might be an issue with some people. It does seem a little bit like dragged out, and you might expect more over-the-top stuff than we actually got in the film, but I did find it enjoyable. Overall, I definitely recommend this. I had a great time watching it. I was super invested with our characters, and I thought Shelley was just so damn creepy and so well done, and I was constantly waiting to see how far is she gonna push this? What's her plan? Like, what is she up to? Because she is very, very weird. I mean, including showing that she has somebody locked up in a shipping container in her backyard. That's pretty early on, so that's not a major spoiler, but it's the trigger that makes you realize, like, oh shit, Shelley is not just awkward, there's something wrong with her. Alexis Kendra also did a great job with Alice, and as a whole, the movie just looked and sounded great. I don't have a ton of gripes except for maybe the inclusion of too many Michael scenes, so I'm gonna give this 4 rat slushies out of 5. As always, thank you for watching. Like this video and comment below with your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. If you haven't and you do want to check it out, links are in the description. And if you want the opportunity to recommend a movie for us to review, link to the Patreon also in the description. And if this is your first time here, make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with everything Bloodbath and beyond.